Hey, hi, and howdy, friends. Welcome back to my channel. And if you are new, I'm so glad you're joining me here. My name is Courtney. I am a stay-at-home homeschooling mom, and I love to spend some time in the kitchen. Here on my channel, I share grocery hauls, what's for dinner, and sometimes other cooking videos. But every Saturday, you will find one of these videos, and every Tuesday, you will find a grocery haul, and then sometimes on Thursdays, I'll shake it up with something else. This week, I made 4 meals, and they're all like pretty much on the healthier side, which made me super happy. That's kind of what I have been trying to focus on, is eating a little bit healthier. You know, new year, new you. Of course, that stuff typically wears off for most people, but I'm really hoping I can stick with it. And I really enjoyed the meals this week too. The first one is the least healthy out of the bunch, but it's still not bad. We're going to start off with some chicken tikka masala. Now, I was completely irresponsible and forgot to thaw my chicken, and I had a ton of things to do, so I just had to throw some frozen chicken in my slow cooker. Not really ideal, but it worked. I threw some chicken thighs in there. I threw in a can of diced tomatoes, a whole can of tomato paste. I just take cut the ends off both ends of the can and push it on through. A little bit of water there, some seasonings right there. I've got some bouillon and some salt and pepper is going to go in here. Of course, I've got some fresh diced onions. I've got some of my confit garlic, which is listed down below if you want to watch that video and make it for yourself. And then, of course, there's like garam masala and ginger and all kinds of other things. I'll link the entire recipe down below. This is so good and so yummy and so flavorful. Oh my goodness, I just love this dish. Now, of course, you can buy a jar of tikka masala sauce at your local grocery store. I did include it a couple of weeks ago in a budget meal plan. So it's not that bad to buy it in the jar, but if you can make it from scratch, why not? So here we go. I just let that simmer all day, and of course the chicken at this point was like fall apart tender, and that is what you want. So I was just kind of mixing it around to make sure it was done, and it was. So I just take my meat masher and go to town. I just found that that's the best way to kind of shred up my chicken in a slow cooker. Now, because I used a lot of canned tomato products, I do like to add in about 1.5 to 2 tablespoons of brown sugar just to kind of take a little bit of that acidity off the edge there. And then I like to mix in some coconut milk. Some people do Greek yogurt, but for me, coconut milk does it. It's got just this perfect flavor that kind of mixes in great with this really heavily spiced dish. It's so delicious. If you haven't tried it with coconut milk, I highly, highly advise it. It is so good. And of course, I just serve this over rice. I cooked my rice in a little bit of chicken bouillon this time just for some extra flavor. That was all there was to it. I kept it super simple. I did roast some baby broccoli or broccolini on the side. It is not my favorite. This is the third or fourth time I've tried it, and I just don't love it. I think I'll stick with regular broccoli, but I just roasted in the oven with a little bit of garlic, salt, pepper, and oil on there, and that was that. All right, on to our next meal. Now this one was good. I've done this one a few different ways before on my channel. I actually came across a recipe in my Mediterranean diet cookbook called crispy pesto chicken. And I was going to do chicken, but there were some pork chops in my deep freeze that needed to be used up ASAP, so I went with pork chops this time. And this was it was good. Pesto chicken and pesto pork chops, they're good. They taste nice. They always cook well, but it's not like my favorite dish, but it does work, and it's quick and it's easy. And according to my Mediterranean diet cookbook, it's not that bad for you. So I started off by slicing or cutting in half some of these baby potatoes. You can use any kind. I just like the baby potatoes. And then you just mix in some store-bought pesto sauce. And make sure you coat these potatoes in that with some garlic powder and a little bit of salt. You can add any spices you want to it. I did salt and pepper. The pesto that I buy at H-E-B, I always find is a little lacking in the salt department. It needs just a little help. I think even some lemon juice would have perked it up a little bit, but I typically just throw in some salt. Give these a good mix, and you're going to roast them in the oven. I will list out the recipe down below in the description box. I did alter it just a little bit from my cookbook, and I don't want to just like rip off their recipes, so I will just list it with my alterations. But anyway, I roasted these in a 400-degree oven for about 25 minutes. You can see I left some space there in the middle. That's where my pork chops are going to go. So while the potatoes were cooking, I did take my pork chops and throw them in a bowl. These are pork sirloin chops. That is the cut that I like. I'm not a huge pork chop fan, but if I'm going to eat them, this is the cut I really prefer. I think it tastes better, and it's usually like pretty tender and juicy. So I just threw some of that store-bought pesto in there, and of course I needed to kind of like I don't know, dress it up a little bit. I just felt like Parmesan cheese was the ideal way to go. And just like the potatoes, I added in some salt, pepper, and garlic powder as well. And then I just mixed this around and let the pork chops just kind of hang out, soaking up some of that good pesto flavor there while those potatoes were doing their thing in the oven. These pork chops, they did take on the flavor, and they were so tender and juicy, and they really were yummy. It's just, I think when I think of pesto, I really just like it on pasta with nothing else going on there, and I also really prefer homemade. So to go on the side, I did want an extra veggie, so I'm just quartering up some fresh Brussels sprouts. I haven't cooked Brussels sprouts in a while, and my family really likes them. Our favorite thing is to go to Longhorn Steakhouse and get them there. Oh my gosh, they are so fantastic there. But, you know, at home in a pinch, I make something pretty similar. So I started off by popping them in my skillet. I added a little bit of garlic oil for me, but you can do olive oil and add in some garlic later. And I'm just kind of getting these stirred around and getting them coated in the oil so they can just kind of hang out in there and saute for a little bit and do their thing. We're going to add some seasonings in later, but Brussels sprouts are a little bit hard as far as veggies go. So I like to give them plenty of time to cook on their own before we go saucing them up. All right, the potatoes have started to soften, but they're not fully done. I like to develop a lot of color on mine, so I let them go extra long. But they are starting to cook, so it's a great time to go ahead and add our pork chops. Now, mine are super thick. If you're using like a thin cut pork chop, you might want to adjust the timing. I'm just going to list what I did for mine. I cooked these bad boys at 375. I did drop the temperature down to 375, and I cooked them for an additional 25 minutes, and they were done. I tested them with a meat thermometer. I did go ahead and sprinkle some breadcrumbs on the top because I really wanted some crunch. I wish I would have had panko, but I guess I'm out. I thought I had some, but all I could find was regular breadcrumbs. So I sprinkled those on, and they gave a little bit of texture, a little bit of crunch, but the panko would have definitely been better. It's kind of my take on a little bit of shake and bake. If you're as old as I am, you probably remember that. It was super popular, I think in the 90s. A lot of people were cooking it for dinner. I remember making it when I first moved out on my own when I was like 18. Making it for myself. It was super easy. You just kind of toss your meat in this breadcrumb mixture and then bake it. It's supposed to be healthier than frying your chicken and stuff, but gave you those fried chicken vibes. So that's kind of what I just played with there. The pesto is going to be like the glue, and then I just stuck some breadcrumbs on top. All right, so that went back in the oven, and while it's doing its thing, I hop back over here to my Brussels sprouts. They're nice and soft now, so I added in a little bit of butter, about 2 tablespoons, and then I'm stirring in, I just happen to have the Longhorn Steakhouse seasoning. You could do any kind of steakhouse seasoning or any kind of seasoning mix you like. Even just Badia Complete would be fantastic in there. Now, the key to these tasting amazing is smoked paprika. You've got to add in smoked paprika. It gives that smoky flavor, and that is so good. And here in a minute, we're going to add in some honey, so it's a sweet, smoky flavor, and it is so, so good. Some red pepper flakes would have been ideal in here, and I didn't think to add any in. I wish I would have, because that little hint of heat is amazing when you have the honey and stuff. Or, you know, if you have hot honey in your house, just use that in place of the regular honey just to kind of kick it up a notch. It's going to be fantastic. Anyway, I just like to let these simmer in that sauce that we just created for about 5 minutes, just so they get nicely coated and yummy and delicious, and they're pretty much good to go. Of course, everything's baking in the oven, and there's our whole dinner. Those potatoes were, I think, my favorite part. They were so amazing. I would definitely say give potatoes coated in pesto a chance. That was so delicious. The pork chop was good too. The Brussels sprouts were, as always, just totally fantastic. No complaints for me there. All right, on to the next night. So I needed to use up some produce. I kind of started shifting things around at this point. You'll see this in my grocery haul, but my husband and I are heading out of town on a trip. My mother-in-law is coming to stay with my kids and do like homeschool with them and take them to other stuff, but we will be gone. So I'm trying to use up some of the produce and stuff that I know she's not going to want to use, or I don't think she's going to want to use. And I had a bunch of these baby potatoes as well as a big bag of regular potatoes, and I thought, well, I'll use these up. We're going to serve potatoes again. I'm using those in place of where I would normally put like rice or mac and cheese or something. I figure they're probably a little bit healthier. And I decided to kind of make these a lemon herb garlic potato. So I have some garlic oil, some of my confit garlic. I had some fresh thyme that was hanging out in my fridge. I mixed it in there. I have a lot of dill because I love dill. I mixed in some lemon juice, and we're giving this a really, really good mix. Of course, added some salt and pepper. These were so good. So I gave them a good toss in that garlic herb mixture, and then I roasted them in the oven just like I did for the pesto pork chop. I tried to put them cut side down. These didn't develop quite as much flavor or as much browning as they normally do. I don't know if it was just what I cooked them in or what. Typically they'll brown a lot, but they were so good. The flavor that they took on from that lemon vinaigrette was amazing. And then I had some salmon in my deep freeze. One piece was already seasoned and I had one piece that was not. In total, I ended up with 4 portions. So for the 2 that were just plain, I'm just making up kind of a simple teriyaki sauce. I've got some soy sauce, 2 tablespoons of soy sauce. I ended up doing close to 2 tablespoons of honey. And then I threw in some garlic powder because I like a little garlic zing in mine. That's really all there is to it. It tastes pretty similar to teriyaki. It's really good, super simple. And then I just kind of topped my fish with that and let it sit there for about 5 or 10 minutes while the potatoes were doing their thing before I put them in the oven and they soaked up all that yummy teriyaki type flavor. This was really good. The other ones that I had were Monterey seasoned, I think it said. It really just kind of tasted like a garlic herb or a Badia complete type seasoning on there, but they were good. And I've had these in my freezer for a while. I picked them up on clearance. And when I opened the freezer to get my regular salmon, I saw them and I thought, you know what? I need to use these because I've had them for a long time. So I went ahead and did that. I feel like I did that a lot this week, which is good. That's what you should do if you've had stuff for a while. You want to use it up. But there it is. I served some roasted cauliflower and those amazing potatoes topped with green onions. Oh my goodness. Those were a winner. Lemon, garlic, herb, potatoes, y'all. It's where it's at. And that's what the teriyaki style looked like. I saved that bowl for my son because he was working late. He works at a grocery store and goes to college. So he was coming home late. I made sure I had a plate ready for him. He loves salmon and he loves teriyaki anything. So I knew he was going to want that meal. All right, on to the last meal. Now, originally I said I was going to do shrimp Alfredo, which I did find a lighter recipe for that in my Mediterranean diet cookbook, but I had some produce, again, that needed to be used up. So I went a different direction, and this was amazing. It's kind of a take on scampi a little bit, but it's different, and it is fabulous. So I had a bunch of these little tiny cherry tomatoes. I'd been snacking on these and having them with my lunch, and this is what I had left, and I didn't want them to go bad. They're so delicious. So I put a little garlic oil in a skillet, and I tossed them in there, let them get tossed around the oil and heat through, and give them about 3 or 4 minutes. When you can start to hear or see that the skin's starting to get a little char on it, time to add some liquid. So I tossed in half a cup of chicken broth, or in my case, half a cup of water and some chicken bouillon. Then I popped a lid on the pan and I let these simmer for about 5 to 7 minutes. And by the time I took the lid off again, they were nice and soft. So I grabbed my knife. I was chopping up some parsley with. A smaller knife is definitely better for this, but this is what I had handy. So I just grabbed it, and I like to poke holes in the tomatoes. It just kind of helps prevent me from getting sprayed in the face with like the liquid tomato napalm that's in the center. When I am mashing these up, just poke a simple hole in them. But again, like a small knife, a paring knife, something like that is a lot better tool for the job. Then I gave everybody a mix and started mashing at those tomatoes so they would like leak out all their deliciousness, and that's what's going to form the sauce, the chicken broth and the inside of those tomatoes. And man, is that just incredible. These little baby tomatoes, any kind of grape tomato, a cherry tomato, typically have like a little bit of a sweeter flavor. And when you cook them, that really shines through, but you still get the brightness of the tomato, and they make a mean tomato sauce. So I went ahead and added in a whole ton of my confit garlic. You could do fresh garlic, like 1 to 2 cloves, or you could do, I don't know, about a 1/4 teaspoon of garlic powder in here. But this confit garlic is where it's at, y'all, because it's also a little bit sweet and it's roasted and it's delicious and it's rich and it's just amazing. Again, I'm linking my video for that down below if you're interested. It's so easy to make and just will change the way everything tastes. So good. All right, I kind of just mash that up a little bit because I keep it in my fridge. It's cold. Once it heats up, the garlic just spreads like butter. And then I kept it simple, y'all. I added in about half a teaspoon of Italian seasoning. You could add in any herbage that you have on hand that you want to. I just went with that because it's sitting right next to my stove and it was easy, and I know we all have that. Then I had the spinach in my fridge because I've been having spinach egg white omelets with a little bit of feta cheese, which are also so yummy. But I went ahead and stirred that on in here, just probably about half of one of those large bags. Just to kind of bulk this up with some extra vitamins and nutrients, I tossed in about 2 tablespoons of lemon juice because I love some lemon flavor in mine. You could also juice and zest 1 fresh lemon, and that would be even better. But I just didn't have the time for that today, so I went with the store-bought stuff, which is fine too. I love it. It works great in a pinch. Gave that a good stir. I wanted to add in a little bit of salt and pepper just to make sure that this is nicely flavored. You can see that I have a pot of spaghetti water boiling to the side over there. This is something I'm prepping for a late lunch, early dinner, because we are just way off on our schedule. And I will tell you, it holds up great in the fridge for a meal prep, so keep that in mind. I went ahead and let that just kind of continue to simmer for a few minutes and the spinach to cook through. And then I tossed in some shrimp. These are just the small shrimp. I think they are around $5 or $6 for a bag at Walmart. So pretty reasonable in, you know, the scope of things. I got these on sale at, oh gosh, it was either HEB or Market Street. I ran in a couple weeks ago and they were like $4.97 or something. That's where I got these. Maybe they were $6.97. I can't remember. Anyway, they were on sale. But keep in mind, Walmart has them for a great price. I stirred in a bunch of fresh parsley, probably too much, but I love parsley and I needed to use it up because I just didn't want to leave it there to go bad in my fridge. I just absolutely love it. It brings this bright, fresh, green, earthy flavor that I think is just fabulous. And then I took my pasta before it was completely done cooking. It probably had about 2 to 3 minutes left, and I put it in the pan with the sauce. And I'm just going to finish cooking it in here. I'll keep the burner down on like a medium to low situation, and I will slowly add in a little bit of pasta water and let the pasta continue cooking in there. And it's going to cook and soak up that sauce and that flavor. And it is just an amazing way to cook pasta. Even if you're just using jarred pasta sauce, give this method a shot because it comes out so much better. I promise you, so much better. The pasta water, you know, kind of helps keep everything loosey-goosey so that it stirs. It doesn't get too thick or anything. It allows the pasta to finish cooking. It's starchy, so it kind of thickens up any liquid you have in the pan already if they get too thin. And it will level up any pasta dish. Like I said, even if it's just a jar of regular old plain spaghetti sauce, it will level it up. Do it this way and throw in like a pat of butter, and I promise you it is going to taste a million times better than if you just open a jar and toss it on later. I'm just going to keep tossing this around so that it can finish cooking for a couple of minutes, but that really is all there is to this dish, and that's what it looks like. This was incredible. Oh my gosh, so many fresh, beautiful flavors. I loved it. I will list this recipe down below as well. That is it for this week, guys, and I don't think there's going to be one of these videos next week because I won't be here to cook meals. I'm going to try to get a canning video out, so keep an eye out for that, but I don't think I'm going to have good reception or good Wi-Fi in Orlando, so I may not be able to do that. Anyway, just stay tuned because I promise I will be back with more videos. Y'all have a great week, and I will see you Tuesday for my grocery haul. Bye, y'all.